Gunther should be one of the easiest wrestlers in WWE to book on the road to WrestleMania. He has been presented for years as one of the company's most dominant and most credible stars, and in recent months, that status has only been reinforced. WWE had to retire Goldberg in July, John Cena in December, and AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble. Three huge names from three different eras of pro wrestling. And yet, despite all of that, Gunther currently has no clearly built WrestleMania match, no properly established feud, and has been absent from television for about 3 weeks. For a wrestler in his position as a former two-time world champion who entered WrestleMania last year's champion, this is a massive creative failure, and the more you look at the timeline, the harder it is to justify. This isn't some lower act WWE guy the creator forgot about a week or two. This is Gunther, a guy WWE has presented as an elite level star for years. A guy who should feel absolutely essential on the road to WrestleMania. And instead, it feels like the booking team either has no clear plan, no urgency to give him a match, or no understanding of what makes this man really special in the first place, or they completely forgot his last couple of months and what position they booked him in. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. Not just Gunther's recent booking, but the bigger problem behind it. The incompetence of a booking approach that somehow took one of the easiest acts in wrestling to book and made him feel directionless at the most important time of the year. Because the more you look at this, the worse it gets. Let's start with the most obvious issue. As of now, Gunther does not have properly teased or announced a WrestleMania match. That alone is crazy. We are talking about a wrestler who should be one of the easiest names to slot into any major WWE programming. He has credibility, presence, aura, great matches, and a style that makes instantly everything feel serious and special. Gunther should be never sitting around this late into WrestleMania season without a clear direction. And it gets worse when you add to the fact that he has been off television for about 3 weeks. 3 weeks on the road to WrestleMania is a lot. That is the exact moment when your biggest stars are supposed to be building up momentum, cutting promos, escalating feuds, creating memorable moments, and making the audience feel like the matches on the biggest stage of them all matters. Instead, Gunther has basically been frozen in place. And that kind of absence doesn't make him feel bigger, it doesn't make him feel mysterious, it just makes creative look unprepared. Because if you want the present Gunther as one of your top stars, then he needs to actually be treated like one. And right now, after everything he has done in last year, he isn't. And that is a huge mistake by WWE. What makes that even more frustrating is that WWE had already done the hard part with Gunther. This is not a guy they had to build from scratch in January. This is a wrestler who has already been given major credibility through his booking. If you look at the names connected to him recently, it's obvious that WWE still sees him like a massive deal. This is a man who in the span of a few months retired Goldberg, retired AJ Styles, and retired John Cena. The John Cena. Think about how insane it is. John Cena, AJ Styles, Goldberg. 3 huge names, 3 tied to completely different eras of wrestling, and Gunther is the one who gets the rub from all of them. That should mean something. That should be the kind of booking that launches you straight into major WrestleMania storyline with huge stakes and a clear opponent. Instead, it feels like WWE used all of that to make Gunther feel important and then had no clue what to give them next. But also, what makes the time look even worse, the original plan was seemingly Rey Mysterio. But there's an issue with that. Rey Mysterio got injured on Raw on January 26th. And people are saying, yeah, look, this is the reason why he doesn't have any booking right now. But an important time frame that you need to mention is that was 8 episodes of Raw ago and 2 pay-per-views. 8 Raws and 2 pay-per-views. This is not something you can still excuse by saying creative needed time to pivot. At that point, if you still don't have a clear WrestleMania direction for Gunther, that is not something you can still excuse by saying creative needed to pivot. At that point, if you still don't have a clear WrestleMania direction for Gunther, that is just straight up bad booking. Simple as that. No discussions around it. Because this is exactly what competent creative teams are supposed to normally be prepared for. Injuries can happen. Plans can always get changed. Wrestlers can get hurt. That is just wrestling. That is normal. The problem isn't that the original plan may have been fallen apart. The problem is that WWE has had weeks and weeks to present a strong backup plan and apparently still hasn't done that. And that's what makes the whole thing feel incompetent. Not unlucky, not unfortunate, just straight up incompetent booking. Because with a wrestler like Gunther, backup plans should be easy. In fact, the really frustrating part is there are multiple backup plans that make sense immediately. The first one is Shinsuke Nakamura. And honestly, this one always writes itself. If Gunther retired AJ Styles in January, then Shinsuke coming after him out of revenge is completely a logical story. You already have history there through AJ Styles. You already have emotional motivation. You already have a stylistic clash that feels fresh. And you already have a wrestler in Nakamura who has the aura and, in my opinion, the name value to make a WrestleMania match feel significant against Gunther. More importantly, it gives Gunther something concrete to work with, a real story, a real grudge, a real opponent with a reason to want the match. That's all you need. You don't need to overcomplicate this. Gunther retired AJ Styles. Shinsuke, who has been one of Styles' greatest rivals in New Japan, has faced AJ Styles at Saturday Night main event just shortly before Gunther faced AJ Styles and retired him. And now you can get a violent, serious WrestleMania match between two elite wrestlers. Another backup plan that just came to my mind is Ilya Dragunov. And if anything, it might be from a pure in-ring perspective the even better option. Because with Ilya, the history's already there. You have seen them feud each other on NXT and NXT UK. They have been teaming together and faced each other a couple of times in WXW. And the intensity is also already there. Gunther, of course, once tapped out by Ilya Dragunov. Ilya was one of the first wrestlers to get a big win over Gunther. The match quality is guaranteed. We have seen their past matches. And unlike a thrown together match, the Mania match that others would be, this would actually feel like something fans can sink their teeth immediately into. Because people know what to expect from this matchup and it's an easy story to tell. You also already have the material to work from there, from Ilya Dragunov's perspective. The United States title feud that he had, and specifically the idea of Ilya Dragunov saying he doesn't deserve another shot and Mello was already there. That story got kind of just blown off already on a SmackDown last week and Ilya lost. That leaves him in a creative place where he has pretty much no clear direction going on, except they want to continue the US title feud. Which means you could easily redirect the frustrations towards Gunther. And once you do that, the whole thing instantly becomes interesting because Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov is not just a match, it comes with history, violence, prestige, and built-in emotions. Fans know what the pairing means. Fans want this pairing ever since both are on the main roster. They know the level of brutality it can reach. And it just feels worthy of WrestleMania in a way that very few possible Gunther opponents do. So if WWE really had no better answer after Ray's injury, then how did they not move toward one of the directions sooner? That's the question. Because this is where the criticism of the booking team really lands for me. It's not just how Gunther currently has no proper Mania direction, it's that there are obvious solutions right there, and somehow none of them have seemingly properly executed yet. That is what makes this whole situation so avoidable. And I think that's a bigger issue with WWE's creative at times. They can be very good at setting up broad ideas, big moments, and major visual payoffs. But when they have to need to pivot, and when they have to need to adjust, and when they have to think one level deeper than the original outline, things often start to fall apart. Gunther is just the latest example for that. Because again, this should not be hard. You have a dominant champion level star. You have a built-in credibility. You have recent memory with recent names. You have weeks of television to tell a story. And you have at least two backup opponents who immediately make sense. And that doesn't even include just continuing with the Dragon Lee feud. And yet, here we are, talking about the fact that Gunther has no WrestleMania match announced and hasn't even been on television for 3 weeks. That's just crazy. Especially because WrestleMania season is where stars are supposed to feel larger than life. This is where your top talents should be peaking. This is where stories are supposed to tighten up and not just disappear. And for Gunther, it feels like the exact opposite has happened. Instead of feeling like a centerpiece, he feels like an afterthought. And that is where complete failure lies in the booking team. Because whatever the original plan was, there's no excuse to have someone like Gunther drift this close to WrestleMania without luck in direction. Not when he has been protected this heavily. Not when he has given big wins and rubs over names as big as Goldberg, John Cena, AJ Styles, and so on. Not when the audience already sees him as a star. Not when he's one of the few not great heels that WWE has left. At some point, WWE has to stop relying on the idea that talents will carry bad creative no matter what. Yes, Gunther is great enough to survive this. Yes, if you give him the right opponent, like he can still produce some great match. Yes, his aura is strong enough that fans will still care. But it doesn't excuse the booking. If anything, it makes the booking look even worse because they're wasting someone who should be one of the easiest home runs on the roster. In the end, that's the real story here. This isn't just about Gunther missing a few weeks of television. It's about WrestleMania plan feeling unclear. It's about WWE taking one of the most credible stars and somehow making you feel like directionless during the most important stretch of the year. And if the booking team really doesn't have a strong plan in place after all of this, then that says everything. Because Gunther should feel invincible at WrestleMania. Instead, right now, he feels stranded. And that's not on him, that's on the creative. Let me know what you think. Who should Gunther face at WrestleMania if Rey Mysterio is no longer the plan? Shinsuke Nakamura, Ilya Dragunov, Dragon Lee, or someone else internally? And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.